Hi everyone, welcome to Module 3 of Nursing 504. I wanted to go over with you the details of Module 3. So the objectives for this module is to explain how the application of nursing theories may be different with patients from different cultures, explain how ignoring the spiritual needs of patients and families can negatively impact health outcomes, describe how mothering may be different for women who are known to be HIV positive. So I don't necessarily have a reference for moms with HIV, but this is something that I want you to investigate on your own. And this really will come into play when we talk about the discussion board. So the readings for this week, you're going to read chapters 7, 8, 9, and 10 of your textbook. And this applies to both the 4th and the 5th editions. And then this link actually talks about the AACN synergy model, but a different link for the discussion board will actually give you that model. So this is just a very brief overview of it. So when you click on it, it's not going to bring you to what you need for your discussion board. That link is in your discussion board. We'll go over that in just a moment. So this week, you had your reflection paper, which was due yesterday. And I should have grades posted in that by tomorrow morning at the very latest. So I'm going to finish up grading the ones that I have left and then enter the grades into the grade book. So you should have a grade by tomorrow morning, which is Wednesday morning. Make sure that you post in the discussion board. So your initial post is always going to be due Thursday at 11:59 Central Time. And then your 2 response posts are always going to be due on Sunday by 11:59 Central Time. With your initial post, you will be required to have a scholarly peer-reviewed reference and make sure that it's APA formatted. With your response posts, you do not need to have an additional reference. However, just make sure that your response posts are meaningful, they add to the discussion. Sharing personal experiences are also relevant. You are certainly welcome to use an additional reference, and just make sure it is formatted correctly using APA. So let's go ahead and get into the discussion board then for Module 3. And it says you're going to read the synergy model from the AACN, and this is the link here. So when you pull that up, this is what it'll look like. Okay, this is the AACN synergy model for patient care. So read through the introduction portion here. And what I want you to focus on for your discussion board post are the 2nd and 3rd pages of the module, of the model. So if you notice, the categories are in blue. All right, so we have resiliency, vulnerability, stability, and so on and so forth. So the gives you the category here, and then it gives you the definition. And then if you notice, there are 3 levels: level 1, level 3, and level 5. So under resiliency, which is the capacity to return to a restorative level of functioning using compensatory coping mechanisms, the ability to bounce back quickly after an insult. And then if you look at level 1, and they're minimally resistant, basically what that are resilient, that means that they're unable to mount a response. There's failure of compensatory or coping mechanisms, minimal reserves, and this person is very brittle. And I'll let you read the rest of the components as well as each of the levels. Now what you're going to do with this then is you're going to find additional information about motherhood among HIV-infected mothers. So there are studies out there, most of which are qualitative in nature. There are articles on the web. There are websites. There are support groups. Again, journal articles that have been published, and they all reflect back to this demographic, this specific population. So you're going to describe the issues some mothers with HIV may have in raising their children. What fears could they have? For example, even though HIV is treatable now, what happens if the moms can no longer get their medications for whatever reason? What if the medications stop working for them? Who would take care of their children? So that's a real valid fear. What would others think about them if they knew? So that comes into that stigma. Think along the lines of social stigmas they could face. How would you as a nurse be able to advocate to lessen these fears? Okay, so this is all part of that discussion. So again, you're going to find an article, you're going to find a resource or a reference that really highlights motherhood and HIV. All right. So then what you're going to do after you've done that, you're going to take a look at the synergy model, which again, here's the link, and that'll pull up the model that I just showed you. You're going to apply the rationale for the possible level for each area. Okay, so the area of like, you're going to do all the areas, resiliency, vulnerability, so on and so forth. And then you're going to take that article. Think about if it's a qualitative study, for example, and they interviewed several women who were moms with HIV. But the common theme, maybe they had a common theme that was very positive. And I'll share an article with you during the discussion board in one of your peers' discussions. I'll share that article with you. It was actually very positive. So, you know, your answer by using the synergy model will really depend on the article or the reference that you have found. So there could be a theme, again, very positive, or maybe the theme is very negative. Maybe there is still a lot of stigma that's happening. Maybe the women that were interviewed for this research project or for this article, you know, still face a lot of stigma. Maybe it's a demographic or cultural issue that they're facing with the stigma related to the HIV. So there are no right or wrong answers to correlating the synergy model with the reference that you've given. You know, this is your perception of where the women would be with the levels for each category within the synergy level. Now, when I say there are no right or wrong, I guess I should kind of tweak that a little bit. It is possible, because if you have an article, for example, the one that I'm going to share you, where most of the responses are very positive, the women have very positive attitudes, they're part of support groups, et cetera, and if you say that they are at level 1 in terms of resiliency or vulnerability, I probably would disagree with you on that. So again, just make sure that you have a really good understanding of the resource that you've pulled. Look for those common themes. Look to see, is it something that is, you know, the women are very positive about this? Are they still facing big stigmas and just a lot of issues? You know, so they're probably more vulnerable. They may not have that resiliency. So you're going to tie in your specific reference that you've used and then match that with those levels within the content of the synergy model. Okay. Again, think about those qualitative studies because with those you will get actual quotations from the moms, and those are very instrumental in deciphering those themes, whether or not, and of course during the discussion, the researchers will say, well, actually this group of women, look at their HIV infection as not being a big deal. You know, they have great support systems. So you'll see that. You'll see those common themes coming up with the resources that you find. So one other note that I wanted to make regarding discussion board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run it a little bit differently from here on out. All of you are doing such a great job with the discussion board. And I feel like I'm doing a disservice by only posting initial posts and then maybe getting back in there and doing a few response posts. So what I'm going to do actually, so I can fully immerse into some of those discussions that are happening every week, I'm going to post initial posts in some, not everyone's post each week. But if I didn't get to your post, for example, this week, then I'll get to your post the following week and the week after. So it'll just, again, I want to really invest a lot more time really going deep within the discussion. So that way I don't feel like I'm just doing an initial post and then that's all I had time for. So again, if I don't post in your, if I don't do a response post to your initial post this week, just be looking for it for the next week then, okay? So I hope that helps answer some questions for you. If you have any questions for me, don't hesitate to send me an email, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks.